Tansei, I'm Coronach. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. A man involved in the death of a 33-year-old man from the town of Coronach in Saskatchewan has been found and arrested in White Bear First Nation this weekend. However, a second person involved in that death is still at large. On December 3rd, Saskatchewan RCMP responded to a report of an injured person in a home in White Bear. When officers arrived, they located the body of 33-year-old Talon Lone Thunder. A search then began for 22-year-old Jeremy Whitebear, who was charged with second-degree murder, and 26-year-old Dwayne Maxey, who was charged with manslaughter. This weekend, Whitebear was found and arrested at a home in White Bear. Maxey still remains at large. He is 6'2", about 250 pounds, and also goes by the name of Georgie. RCMP say if you see Maxey, do not approach him and call RCMP or Crime Stoppers. White Bear will make his first court appearance in Estevan today. Both White Bear and Maxey are from White Bear First Nation, located about 215 kilometers southeast of Regina. This past weekend, Saskatchewan RCMP Major Crimes Unit investigated a homicide in the Onion Lake Cree Nation. RCMP are now asking for the public's help in solving the case. At about 6 a.m. on Friday, December 6th, Onion Lake RCMP responded to reports of gunshots. RCMP later learned a man with serious injuries was brought to the Onion Lake Medical Center. 37-year-old Jesse Heathen was pronounced dead by Emergency Medical Services. RCMP consider his death a homicide due to the circumstances. Anyone with information or who saw suspicious activity in Onion Lake Cree Nation is asked to contact RCMP or Crime Stoppers. Manitoba RCMP are asking the public's help to help solve a recent homicide in the St. Teresa Point First Nation. On Saturday, December 7th at around 7:40 a.m., Island Lake RCMP received a report of a suspicious death. A male was transported to the St. Teresa Point First Nation nursing station with life-threatening injuries. When officers arrived, they found a 25-year-old man from St. Teresa Point First Nation deceased at the nursing station. RCMP are now asking if anyone has information on this death to come forward and call RCMP or Crime Stoppers. An elderly couple from Pelican Narrows in northeast Saskatchewan has received assistance after APTN News reported they were in need of help last week. Last Friday, APTN News told you about the story of 75-year-old Marianne and Gordon Ballantyne. They were trying to stay warm while living in a camper trailer while also helping to look after their 19 grandchildren and great-grandchildren. The couple lost their home to a house fire last summer, and Michaela Renus, the granddaughter, contacted APTN News to speak on their behalf. Following that report, the Peter Ballantyne Cree Nation said it made numerous attempts to help the couple, but they both preferred to live in their trailer close to home. Now Renus tells us her grandparents have accepted the latest offer to stay in a temporary home. To Saskatoon's Court of King's Bench now, where a man who pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in a missing woman's death will now spend life in prison. CTV's Laura Woodward has the story.
Megan Gallagher's father leaves the courthouse knowing one of the people involved in his daughter's murder will spend life behind bars.
None of this will ever bring Megan back is what it comes down to, and it didn't need to happen.
Robert Bobby Thomas pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. He was handed a life sentence with no chance of parole for 18 years following a joint submission from the Crown and Defense. Thomas is one of 9 people who have been charged in Gallagher's death. The 30-year-old was reported missing in September 2020. 2 years later, police found her remains near St. Louis. The judge imposed a publication ban on all the details of the sentencing hearing as 4 other people allegedly involved in Gallagher's killing await their trials.
And the fact that we have to go through this process again for at least 4 more people is really challenging. Like, coming this far and we still have at least a year to go.
Along with the life sentence, the judge ordered Thomas to have no contact with those who are also charged in the case. Laura Woodward, CTV News, Saskatoon.
To Australia now, where the peak body of violence prevention is calling for greater action nationally to address the staggering rates of violence against First Nation women. The calls follow the death of an Aboriginal woman from the Northern Territory town of Catherine. It is the 8th domestic violence death in the territory since June. NITV's Emma Calloway reports.
It's a regional town at the heart of a national crisis. A fourth life lost due to domestic violence in the Big Rivers region in as many months.
The state of the crisis is significant. It has been for a long time.
The victim and perpetrator are yet to be named, but police have confirmed a 68-year-old man has been charged with murder following the death of a 61-year-old woman at Royal Darwin Hospital last Thursday.
Until we as a country get courageous, make ourselves vulnerable and really challenge ourselves and each other, nothing's going to change for our women.
Nationally, a third of women killed due to domestic violence since June are Indigenous, despite making up just 4% of the population. NT Police joining calls for more to be done.
We need to stand up now. I implore the media to give those people who no longer have a voice so that Indigenous people in the Northern Territory are platformed and understood on the national stage.
Next week, the findings of a landmark inquiry into the deaths of 4 Indigenous women killed by their partners is set to be handed down in Alice Springs. The inquest has previously heard funding in the sector has decreased over the last year due to rising costs. That's despite a 279% increase in unmet demand.
We are overwhelmed. We do have the highest rates of domestic and family violence across Australia, with the smallest bucket of money.
Emma Calloway, NITV News.
A political organization that represents 33 First Nations in Manitoba says it will be providing a statement from the Chiefs Executive Committee at the end of the day on Thursday, December 12th. The Southern Chiefs organization has remained mainly silent for days over an incident involving its Grand Chief. As we reported last Thursday, Jerry Daniels, the Grand Chief of the Southern Chiefs organization, was involved in an altercation outside a bar in Ottawa early last Tuesday morning, just hours before the start of the Assembly of First Nations Special Assembly. Daniels was hospitalized after the altercation that is believed to have involved 2 band councillors from Lake St. Martin First Nation in Manitoba. Other political leaders, including the current interim Grand Chief of SCO, are also not talking. SCO sent an email to APTN over the weekend confirming Cornell McLean is the acting chief. The organization's website has been scrubbing pages that featured Daniels, including his bio page. McLean is now also listed as interim Grand Chief on the SCO website. McLean and the acting chief of Lake St. Martin were asked about the Ottawa incident at an unrelated press conference in Winnipeg last Friday. McLean would only say that he hoped more information would become available next Tuesday. Reporters were then asked to stop asking questions about the incident involving Daniels. Have a listen.
Do you have any update on the health of Jerry Daniels and how long you expect to be the interim chief for SCO?
No comment. This is not about Jerry Daniels here.
I'd just like to make a comment to those that are asking questions. Can you just please keep them to the Jordan's Principle funding issue that we're having? Any other discussions for any other issues? This is not the appropriate time, please. Thank you.
We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. For thousands of years, Indigenous history has been passed down by oral history. Now, Indigenous youth are sharing some of those stories in a unique way in Saskatchewan. That story when we come back. Welcome back. Now to another story in Australia. Youth advocates there say the Northern Territory government's latest crackdown on school attendance will only punish parents already living on the poverty line. The country Liberal Party government has revived existing laws that will see parents fined more than $300 when children miss school. The plan comes with a new cohort of school attendance officers tasked with enforcing it. Once again, here's NITV's Emma Calloway.
Auntie Serena Dalton has spent years working to support young people in need.
We run programs here. We do social and emotional wellbeing, cultural activities and employment programs.
Getting kids to school has been a top priority, but she says kids here need more than mainstream schools can offer.
Not every kid has the ability to be able to sit in the classroom all day. It's really, really hard, especially with some of the disabilities or conditions they might carry.
Those concerns have now turned to the parents of those children. Last week, the NT government announced a crackdown on school attendance.
People need to remember that not sending your children to school is against the law.
Existing laws will be reinforced, with parents of kids who miss school set to be fined up to $370. And truancy officers, now named school attendance officers, are back on the beat to enforce it.
Already finding families that are on the poverty line is just ridiculous. And I get it, like everybody wants kids in school and educated and all the rest of it, but we really need to find other alternatives because with our cohort, and a lot of the kids in here, it's not going to work.
In 2014, truancy officers were brought in to curb the low attendance rates in rural and remote areas.
You're going to come and walk with us to school this morning?
3 years later, they were axed from 23 remote NT communities. The policy labelled a total failure by the Federal Indigenous Affairs Minister at the time.
They weren't effective. Why are we doing them again?
Larrakia man Travis Borsey has worked in the sector for 20 years.
I've always seen that strength-based approaches, incentivising participation often leads to much better outcomes than those punitive approaches.
Calls for a new approach away from policy of the past. Emma Calloway, NITV News.
A wilderness ranch in Yukon is the first Indigenous project to receive federal funding from a new Indigenous tourism program. The signature Indigenous Tourism Experiences Stream, or SITES, was first announced earlier this year. The program is providing $10 million to help grow Indigenous tourism across Canada for the 2024-2025 period. The program is providing the Kwanlin Dun First Nation $750,000 to expand the Sky High Wilderness Ranch. The First Nation purchased the ranch last December. It offers dog sledding, horseback riding, and off-grid cabin stays. The funding will be used to enhance accommodations, increase space, and build a new visitor and elder center.
It's gonna just help grow this business and develop these opportunities for empowering citizens within our nation.
A new radio play in Saskatchewan is being celebrated for its contributions to reconciliation. As CTV's Noah Rashog reports, its Indigenous creators are receiving praise for their 9-part series.
For thousands of years, the Indigenous peoples of North America have passed down their stories and their history through word of mouth. The tradition, thought ancient, is actually still in practice today, in part through Burnt Thicket Theatre's 9-part radio play.
So everything was like verbal. So it makes sense that in this sort of medium, it's kind of like doing an up-to-date version, a contemporary version of oral storytelling.
We Treaty People tells modern Indigenous stories, as well as metaphorical science fiction stories surrounding the treaties.
The 9 plays that were created are really spectacular and provocative, and they're each paired with an interview with that creative team who told the story, and then we have a conversation together about that play, but also about some questions around reconciliation.
The plays cover a lot of ground, from real-life stories around modern Indigenous history to science fiction. Danny Knight directed a play that takes viewers into the distant future to retell stories from the past.
But it was a really cool play, and it played with all those themes, but it played with it in a super futuristic society, right, where all these resources are running out, kind of like they are now. And Curtis had done such a great job writing this script, and yeah, it was super cool. And I don't know, it had a really like dark ending, and I love dark endings.
The series is being recognized. They've won an award for Leading Together, which comes from the Treaty Commissioner, Kathy Walker.
They've given it out a couple of times for work with, how do they word it, long-term impact toward reconciliation.
Although Burnt Thicket Theatre has not announced any upcoming projects, they expressed their openness to continue telling these stories into the future. For Indigenous Circle, I'm Noah Rashog.
And we now want to tell you about last week's web poll question results. On aptnnews.ca, we asked, are you affected by the ongoing Canada Post strike? 68% had said yes, while 32% weren't feeling the effects of the ongoing strike. Next was, are you following the Assembly of First Nations meeting this week in Ottawa? 44% said yes, they were following, along with 56% saying no. And last, we asked, do you think Métis people should be included in the federal non-insured health benefits program? 56% answered no, and the rest agreed that Métis people should be included. Thanks to all who voted, and stay tuned for our website on some all new questions. Apologize for that. A new documentary called The Vow of Silence, The Assassination of Annie Mae Aquash has just been released. We'll speak with the director when we come back.
Starting on the east, St. John's 4, Charlottetown -3. Cartwright -6, the Grand River -15. Seguede -8, Quebec City -8. Peterborough -3, Toronto 0. -8 in Sudbury, Sioux Lookout -11. -16 in Norway House, Thompson -17. -11 in Gimli, Princess Harbour -15. Saskatoon -7, North Battleford -7 as well. minus 12 in Stony Rapids, Meadow Lake, minus 8, minus 22 in Fort Chipewyan, High Level, minus 15, 2 in Red Deer, Calgary, 1, 8 in Tofino, Kamloops, minus 1, minus 11 in Fort Nelson, Prince Rupert, 5, minus 12 in Old Crow, Dawson, minus 12, minus 14 in Wrigley, Fort Simpson, minus 16, minus 24 in Colville Lake, Inuvik, minus 18, minus 25 in Baker Lake, Chesterfield, minus 22 and partly cloudy, Arctic Bay, minus 27, Gulick, minus 12.
Last month, Hulu debuted a new 4-part docuseries called Vow of Silence, The Assassination of Annie Mae Aquash. Aquash was a Mi'kmaq activist from Shubenacadie, Nova Scotia, who was a known member of the American Indian Movement, or AIM. 30-year-old Aquash was murdered in 1975 in South Dakota, and almost 50 years later, her murder is still unsolved. Director-producer Yvonne Russo, who is a member of the Sikongu Lakota Tribe Nation, joins us to speak about the 4-part series. Yvonne, thank you for joining us today. Vow of Silence, The Assassination of Annie Mae Aquash, puts a spotlight on the murder of activist Annie Mae Aquash. Can you tell us why it is important to continue to tell her story?
Well, Annie Mae's Mi'kmaq from Nova Scotia, Canada. She fought for Indigenous rights in the 1970s. Her legacy is a powerful reminder for us because the past is still present in Indian country. You know, there's so many injustices that she faced during that time as an activist and American Indian movement leader. And a lot of those injustices that she faced are what our communities are also continuing to face today. But it's also her legacy that we want to remember, that she stood for resilience, and she was a strong woman who really believed for our people to fight for self-determination and to stay strong and resilient.
Yvonne, can you explain how long you have been working on this documentary and the type of work you did and how it feels to finally be at this point?
Oh my goodness. So the project started in 2018. I've been working on this for 6 years with my producing partner, Amy Kaufman and Caroline Waterlow. And it's been an incredible journey. It's creating docuseries is not an easy task by no means, and there's not one way to do it. You know, it's a process of evolution of story, but the most important thing is being present for all of the moments in the unraveling of the story. And I will say in 2018, when I first really met Denise Pictou Maloney, Annie Mae's daughter, it was a profound moment for me because she has been fighting for justice and seeking answers to her mother's murder for 30 years. 30 years and not receiving any answers, just tidbits here and there. And when I had a moment to sit with her and be with her family and meet everybody and really learn about her journey as someone seeking answers, I knew that this was a story that I wanted to be a part of, but also really open it to the community so that way our community were the ones that were speaking to it. I didn't want this to be a third-person account of somebody who studied our history or may have known, about what happened, but it had to come from within. So all of our voices had to be told from within, the movement, Annie Mae's friends, family, and so. So it took a long time, it took a long time. And you also have to obtain trust within the community.
Yvonne, what do you hope this audience will take away from this 4-part series?
That I hope that the audiences take away, they understand Annie Mae's legacy. not to just remember her as somebody who was murdered, but to understand what she stood for, that she stood for resilience, and she was a powerful movement member, but a reminder for all of us to stand united and strong as we continue to face injustices that happen to our community, but know that we're united, and that also that the story brings a healing to the families and to communities who had witnessed some of what has happened to Annie Mae.
We have about a minute left. Finally, Yvonne, can you tell us when will this be available for audiences in Canada?
Yes, it's so exciting. We will be Vow of Silence, The Assassination of Annie Mae will premiere on December 11th on Disney Plus in Canada.
Right on. That's director and producer Yvonne Rousseau talking about her new documentary, Vow of Silence, The Assassination of Annie Mae Aquash. Yvonne, thank you for speaking with us today.
Thank you.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Monday, December 9th. We're back again with your evening newscast in a few hours. Make sure to join us then. From everyone at APTN National News, hi miigwech, masicho. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again.